Do you ever feel frustrated and confused when it comes to getting to yes with a prospective client, especially if you're a service provider like a copywriter or a designer or someone that actually provides an outcome for your clients by working with them on their projects? Well, today we're going to get to 3 simple steps that you can begin to implement immediately, starting today, if you're having a conversation with someone, that may start to clarify for you exactly what needs to be happening with those conversations. So the first one, step one, is to prepare for the conversation. I always advise, don't just have a spur of the moment conversation when it comes to talking to someone about what you can provide for them. If you're not prepared to have that conversation, that means don't pick up the phone and just answer and start talking. For example, you can have schedule the time, even if it's just for later that day or the next morning, you can still schedule the time, because what I want you to do after you schedule that time is prepare for the conversation. Now, especially if you're tapping into the power of something like ChatGPT 4, there are ways for you to get some intel right away. I would ask that person for their website, their URL, if there's someplace you can look online, just to tell them, just going to take a quick look before you have that conversation, so that because it might be something that you want to ask them, and use that time to prepare. You can do it very, very quickly if you're using the power of ChatGPT 4 and you know how to do it. I just did a huge training on this yesterday for my group, and they were just like, oh, mind blown about how quickly this can happen. So prepare for the call. That's the first step. Don't just do it. Don't just wing it. Okay. Second, you're going to elicit their criteria and reflect it back to them. What does that mean? That means in the conversation, because now you know what their business is and you've taken a look at their site, you're going to ask them specifically, what's important to you about fill in the blank? And they'll tell you something. And why is that important to you? Whatever, from the answer they just gave you. And you can go several layers deep of eliciting their criteria of what's really, do you know what's important about their site? Or are you just looking and saying, oh, you need some emails or you need an opt-in? So you need to get more personal with how you're having that conversation. And you're going to reflect what they tell you back to them. Use some of their own words, use some of their own language, really indicate that you are actively listening and that you understand what it is they're trying to achieve, what their goals are. So this is step 2, very important, that you're making a connection. You're already giving value to that person by doing this and showing that you truly care about what they are doing and why it's important to them, not you, them. Very important, outward client facing. Step 3, you see how easy this is really? Step 3 is, what are you really selling here? It's not, I can do this many emails, I can write you an opt-in, I can write you a sales page, I can write you a webinar, I can do this for you kind of a thing. No, that's not what you're selling. What you're selling is the outcome. You're selling the results, the potential results for them. You don't have to promise they're going to get a certain percentage of sales. As a matter of fact, I strongly advise you not to, unless you're absolutely 100% positive you can do that for them. That's not the point. Think about what they just told you as you were eliciting their criteria, and how you're going to start to connect the dots between them telling you what it is that's important to them, which may be something that's not visible on their website. When you look at it, you need to get it from that conversation. And when you reflect that back to them, their criteria, what's important to them, back to them, that they can experience and feel and start to have happen by working with you. They'll start connecting that to working with you. This starts to deepen the relationship already, and it also starts to elevate the probability that they're going to want to work with you. And so, for example, what do I mean by selling the results? You're going to cast a vision, create a mental picture for them of what life can look like when this starts to happen for them. I'm not talking about hype. I'm not talking about anything out of integrity or that's not really authentic. There's lots of ways you can do this in just a very simple way. So think about some of the brands that you might shop from or be familiar with, or things that you've purchased in your life. And I'll just take an example, because we are kind of fans of Volvo cars. My son ended up buying an electric Volvo, and we did lots of, my husband did a lot of research into that. But Volvo, okay, it's a vehicle. It has 4 wheels. It has 2 doors or 4 doors, maybe 5 doors, depending on the model. It has a steering wheel. It has air conditioning. These are just features, right? So the ads or their promotional materials, their marketing doesn't lead with, we have 4 wheels, we have this many doors. Who cares? That a lot of cars have that. what Volvo's known for is safety. They have generations, decades of marketing for safety, and things like, children being put into their car seats, or the dog in the back, that create a mental picture. They're casting a vision of what's going to happen in many ways when you drive their vehicle, right? And why it's so appealing. And this was in my own family when one of these was purchased by my son and my daughter-in-law when they were expecting their first child, that they wanted to know they had a really safe vehicle to put their new baby in, right? And so that is the outcome. That's casting the vision. I can give you an example. Here's a little story from my own time online as a freelance copywriter, marketing strategist, having these kinds of conversations with potential clients, right? This was some years ago, but I had a client that, we had our conversation and we talked about what he needed on his in his marketing and on his website, and how I could help him with all those things. And when it came to the pricing, he decided he wanted to negotiate that. He wanted something less than what I would charge. Now, I have very strong boundaries and parameters around my business, and I basically let him know that, this probably not a good fit then. I mean, you can say to a client, if they say something, if they're balking about pricing, you could say, well, what part would you like to leave out of the project that we've just discussed? And most people are like, ooh, I don't want to leave out anything, right? Or it can just be, this isn't a good fit because this is what the investment is to work with me. I wish you all the very best, but sounds like this isn't going to be the right fit for you right now. And it's a two-way street, right? But you must lead that conversation. So with this particular individual, I had a conversation like that where I said, looks like it's not going to be a good fit. Wish them well. There's no animosity. There's nothing belligerent or patronizing or argumentative, just releasing, right? Kind of like catch and release. Just bless you and goodbye kind of a thing. Well, what happened with that, when I was able to fully commit to that and really embody the identity of myself and my business and how I would lead in my business, and we parted company, very, very shortly, within the next day or so, I get another message back from this individual asking if we, kind of apologetic, kind of hat in hand a little bit, and asking if we could have one more conversation. So we did. And guess what happened? They apologized for how they had been in that conversation. And then they said, I have 2 projects, not just one. And I would like to book both of them. So we went from non-negotiation, didn't want to, wanted to try and mess around with the pricing, to doubling the very same fee that I'd already quoted for a similar project. And now there were going to be 2 similar projects. So I could easily incorporate that into the pricing structure I'd already shared with him. We went from 0 to doubling within about 24 hours by me holding the line and knowing what the value that I had for my clients and that I provide for my clients. So this is about how you're also thinking about the value you provide and what is it you're really selling here, because what you're really selling is not the obvious. It's not just how many modules, how many hours, how many pages, and please do not price out your projects that way. And at any rate, but do it by the project, not by how many words and pages and commas and all of those kinds of things. But when you deeply understand the value you bring to the people that you work with, then that's what you embody in your conversation. So that's why I'm going to give you bonus point 4. I said 3, but let's go 4, because the 4th one is mindset. It is how you are thinking about what you're about to do in that conversation. It's about you preparing yourself energetically and emotionally to have that conversation. This is yet another reason why you should not have the conversation, back to point 1, unless you're prepared to have it. And it's also, there's so many reasons to do that, the preparation, the booking, the call, because it also starts building that framework around what you do as you're busy, your time is valuable. You're not just waiting by the phone, waiting for that, who's going to call me? Are they going to call me today? You're not doing any of that stuff. And yet you approach these conversations, and this is the energy part that really needs to happen, from a place of confidence and certainty, and also completely devoid of desperation, of grasping and gripping for what you want the result to be, and really being able to adopt the thinking, create that neural pathway that you are more valuable to them than they are to you when it comes to this particular exchange of information and what you can do for them. You don't need them, they need you, right? And so that you don't come across with that needing energy, that grasping energy that I just have to close this deal. And I know sometimes that can be challenging if you're feeling like, well, this has been a down month, or I really need to be able to create more revenue. But here's the thing, you have nothing to lose by adopting these steps and starting to implement them. You have everything to gain. And the only way you're going to know how this works for you is by actually doing it. And so it's kind of an energy experiment. I can't talk, experiment. Okay. And as well as just really sound foundations to build those connections with when you're having those calls. And so that's what I'm going to recommend that you do. I had a question about this yesterday. And by the way, we're on day 2 of my every single day in August commitment to showing up. I really enjoyed yesterday, and I already had to change plans a little bit this morning because I had the time miscalculated for a group that I'm in, and it was way earlier start time because of global time zones and all that than I had prepared for, and I had to be on it like very early. So I already had to adjust. And Wednesdays, I will have to adjust on Wednesdays for the time of day that I'm able to show up live like this. So I hope that these 3 steps, actually 4 now, will help you. And I encourage you to start doing this, start getting comfortable with this. Maybe at first it won't feel comfortable. Maybe you'll feel like I need to talk about all the stuff I do as a copywriter. But there's so many other nuances to this as well, because however you're showing up for your clients, however clients are finding you, you need to be consistent. You need to be able to do it on a regular basis. You need to provide value in where you share in groups or posts that you're doing. And you need to make sure that all the ducks are aligned, kind of thing. They're all in a row with alignment for your messaging on your LinkedIn about page and on your Facebook profiles and any of your social media profiles. And what you say you do and how you do it is very, very consistent wherever anyone finds you or looks, so that as they show up as a potential person for you to talk to, that you know exactly what it is that you do and the value you bring to the process, and why what you have for them is going to increase the value in their life as well. Hope these tips have been helpful. I hope you'll let me know also if you've enjoyed this, or if you found value in it, or if you start implementing how that works for you. I appreciate your comments, your questions, and I'm honoring my commitment to show up each day. And I definitely will be talking to you again tomorrow. And if I can help you in any way, don't even hesitate to reach out to me. I have multiple programs, other ways I work with people, with both corporate and entrepreneurs and small businesses, individuals. And so all you have to do is reach out. I'm here for you. And I'm going to see you again tomorrow. This is Tina Lorenz. Thanks for being here today, and I'll talk to you again very soon.